This is my portfolio in 2021, and this is my portfolio now. As you can see, the value of my portfolio in 2021 was around $42,000, a little less than that. And right now it's sitting at $66,000 to $67,000. So it's improved, and the value has increased more than $25,000 since October of 2021 when this screenshot and video were taken. In my portfolio back then in 2021, I had around 23 holdings, and 4 of those holdings were S&P 500 ETFs. So I think you could kind of see the main problem with my portfolio and how over diversified it was in just in ETFs alone. In this portfolio, I have $67,000, and in the $67,000, I only have 11 holdings and only one ETF, which is VOO. So let's get into problem 1 of my portfolio. Problem 1 of my portfolio was I was way too over diversified. I put small percentages like 1 to 2 to maybe like 1 to 5% into singular stocks. So if you look in here, I have singular stocks like Pfizer, like FRT, ExxonMobil, Walgreens, H&R Block, Nike, AbbVie, BNGO, Clorox, Lockheed Martin. I have all these companies. However, I only put a small amount of my portfolio percentage into these stocks, so there wasn't much growth. As you can see, look, like AbbVie, for example. I'm only up $29. I'm down in $25 in Starbucks. They're little small percentages of gains and a percentage of my portfolio that they don't even really do much to the portfolio value. However, I think that having a few companies and having a larger portfolio percentage in those companies, in those mostly S&P 500 companies like I do now, is a better strategy instead of over diversifying in so many companies that you're missing out on so much growth as if you would have just put that money into one singular stock and see the growth from that. So let's go into problem number 2 with my portfolio. Is I had too many ETFs. I had 4 ETFs. As you can see, I had SPYD, I had SPYG, I had SPHD, and then I had XYLD. I had XYLD. And every single one of those ETFs were in the S&P 500. So they were tracking the S&P 500. They were just different percentages of companies in their portfolio. So for example, SPHD had the top 100 dividend yielders in the S&P 500, and then SPYG was just had all of them, I believe. And they have the same companies. However, I was really just looking at their yields, and I was thinking, oh, well, since these guys have such high yields like XYLD, S&P 500 is growing every single year, and it hasn't stopped growing. It's grown at an average rate of around 8%, 8 to 10% per year. So why don't I just invest in a S&P 500 ETF that has a huge dividend yield and get that 8 to 10% growth every year? I mean, that sounds awesome. Like, everyone would want that. But if you look at XYLD, they're a covered call ETF in the S&P 500. So, but if you look at their growth over time, the 1 year growth, they're down 4%. 5 year growth, they're down 7%. And their maximum growth over time, if you started investing it at the time they started this ETF, you would be down 5%. If you look at VOO, their ETF, if you started investing in VOO since 2010, you'd be up 410% over time. All time, 410%. So that just shows that really XYLD, it was more of a dividend play. It's not more of a growth play. And right now I'm going for more growth than ETFs or than dividends. And, you know, the growth in my portfolio in the past year or two since I started this investing strategy of growth over dividends, it's returned so much more, so much better than my portfolio in the past. And the last problem with my portfolio was I was chasing too many high dividend yields, and I was chasing some hype stocks as well. I invested in high yielding stocks and ETFs like ARCC, for example, and XYLD, as you can see. And ARCC, I mean, I sold it for a profit. I sold most of these stocks that you could see in here for a profit. However, I could have just started investing in VOO way earlier than I actually did, and I would have been up a substantially more amount over time than I am right now. But it's all part of a learning thing, and you could see the other kind of risky stock I invested in was BNGO, Bionanogenomics. I didn't really know anything about them. I just went on YouTube and saw that people said it was gonna grow really quick, and it was kind of a hype stock during the GameStop type of things going on there. And so I put in some money into BNGO, and it went up. I was up around 30% in about, I don't know, 2 weeks maybe. And then the next probably 2 days after that, it went all the way down, and I sold it for, I don't even know, probably like a $10 profit. So that just shows that if you chase hype and you chase yield, that the growth over time isn't gonna be even close to the strategy of just going for a good S&P 500 ETF that returns the S&P 500 over time and has great returns over time, rather than just going into dividend yields and dividend traps. So that was my portfolio. That was my portfolio comparison from 4 years ago to today, and I will see you next time. Thank you for watching.